Hi friends. In the previous video, we discussed variables and data types. Now, we are going to discuss input and output in Python. First, let's understand what output is. Output is the information shown to the user. Python uses the print function to display output on the screen. For example, print hello world. The workflow is very simple. First, we create a program. Then, we use the print function to display information. Finally, Python shows the output on the screen. This is how the print function works in Python. Now, let's discuss input in Python. First, we need to understand what input is. What is input? Input means data entered by the user. Python uses the input function to take input from the user. For example, name equals input, enter your name. When Python reaches this statement, it waits for the user to type something. Let's understand the workflow of input. First, the user enters data, such as text or numbers. Next, the input function receives the data from the keyboard. Then, the entered data is stored in a variable. Finally, we can use the print function to display the stored data on the screen. Now, let's see a real-time example. Create a variable named name and use the input function. Inside the brackets, type a message that will be displayed to the user. Then, print the name variable. Run the code. The output will display. Enter your name. I enter the name Swami. When I press enter, the output is Swami. As you can see, the input is taken from the user and stored in the variable. I think you now understand how input works in Python. An important point about input is that it always returns data as a string. Even if the user enters 20, Python treats it as a string by default. Let's take a real-time example. Use the same program from the previous example. Now, run the program. When prompted, enter 20. The output will be 20. It looks like an integer, but it is actually not an integer. Let's check its data type. Add the type, function, and run the program again. The output will be class string. This shows that input takes whatever the user enters and stores it as a string. But what if we want Python to treat the input as an integer? In that case, add int in front of the input function. Now, let's run the program again. The output will be class integer. This shows that the entered value is now stored as an integer. So remember, input normally takes data as a string. If you are entering numerical values and want to perform calculations, use int in front of the input function. I think you now understand how input and output work in Python. Let's look at a real-life example of adding two numbers. First, create a variable named num1 and use the int function with input. Display the message. Enter first number. Next, create another variable named num2 and use the int function with input. Display the message. Enter second number. Now, create a variable named sum1 and add num1 and num2. Finally, print sum1 and run the program. When the program runs, the output will be enter first number, 10. Enter second number, 20. 30. As you can see, Python takes the two numbers as input, adds them together, and displays the final result as 30. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, share, and if you have any doubts, leave them in the comment section. Do subscribe for more updates.